Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Ladyhawk event in which the Falconer and Warhawk are added to the game. So let's get into both of them. The Falconer coming in with green yellow trait stones. These would mainly be used to trait up Forest Guardian or a Manticore. Either the two would be the best things to put them in. As far as what the Falconer does, it places a hunter's mark on an enemy. This is a mechanic that isn't really overly used currently in the game, mainly because Direwolf is about the only viable option to really be able to place a hunter's mark. Essentially what this is whenever you do skull damage to a enemy that has hunter's mark on it, you will end up doing twice as much damage. So generally you only put hunter's mark on whatever the very first troop is. One thing to note about hunter's mark, which is an interesting interaction that it has, is if you use an exploding troop, it will do twice as much damage to the exploded skulls. So for example, if you use something like a Gorgoltha and it explodes 7 skulls and they have hunter's mark on them, that will then end up doing 14 damage instead of the normal 7. So it is actually pretty good to use with exploders, and of course really good to use with anything that has a high enough attack where 2 times damage will basically result in a one-shot. It also ends up summoning a Warhawk, which is the other troop that was just added, and then creates 7 red gems. This is a little bit small. The Warhawk does use the exact same red mana. It's really similar to the concept of a Corrupt Sorceress. Corrupt Sorceress creates 9 red and then creates a summon that then uses red. This is a very similar concept to that. The only problem is it's only 7 instead of 9, so it will miss quite a bit more often. As far as traits, they're relatively bad other than the Fire Link. This is actually good, mainly because you would synergize it with the fact that you're going to be creating a bunch of red gems, so you'll be able to get additional red gems into whatever troops you're going to be summoning or just have on your team. Next up is the Warhawk that she actually summons. The pure reds are really only used for one troop, and that would be for a fully traded Courage. So if you've been wanting to get Courage fully traded, he's mainly used in skull spam related teams, or just any team that tends to take a lot of skulls. So you can finally get him traded if you want. As far as the Warhawk itself, kind of average. It deals damage to an enemy, then deals an additional 10 damage if they have Hunter's Mark on them, and automatically gains an extra turn. For some reason, it's showing 100 times boost ratio there. That does absolutely nothing. One thing to note about this ability, which is a really weird thing that a couple troops have, is it does not trigger its secondary effect of gaining an extra turn if it happens to kill. So if you do the final blow on an enemy with this troop, and it has Hunter's Mark on it, and you're expecting the extra turn, as of this current moment in time, you do not actually get the extra turn. So do keep that in mind. It's only a 9 mana cost. It's pretty easy to spam, especially given that it has a Swift trait, which makes it start with 75% mana. I actually forget how much that is off the top of my head. I think it starts with 7 mana, I want to say. I actually completely forget. As far as the other traits, it has Focus, which is a completely new trait that no other troop has. This allows it to deal double damage whenever it is hitting an enemy with Hunter's Mark, which essentially means it's doing 4 times damage whenever it's hitting anything with Hunter's Mark, because obviously if it's hitting something with Hunter's Mark, you automatically have the 2 times from Hunter's Mark, and then you have an additional 2 times from the Focus, so that would be a total of 4 times, and would essentially one-hit most troops for the most part, especially if you can get attack buff on it, especially if you were to actually get more copies of it. For the most part, you don't really need a lot of copies of either of these, and if you were only going to choose one, well, definitely get one of both, but you mainly want to put a little bit more into Falconer. And the main reason for this is the other events this week. So if we go over to events, one really important one is use Falconer in PvP to gain 5 additional glory. Out of every single additional resource gain that you can possibly gain from an event, I find this specific one, whenever it does something like this, to be the most powerful one that you can ever utilize. This will end up giving you 5 additional glory whenever you use a Falconer PvP. This is a single troop that you can put into any kind of flimsy team that you want to. Just put it with a solid 3 troops that can perpetuate themselves, and then this useless troop you can put in 4th slot or in 1st slot if you're using as a meat shield, and then you can just win with your other 3 troops. And as long as you don't take too much longer with each battle, you'd then be gaining that additional 5 glory, which in some cases can be basically twice as much glory as you would be gaining. And one thing to note about this is you can spam this on 1 trophies, because it doesn't matter which battle you specifically do, as long as it's a PvP battle, you are getting that additional 5 glory, so keep that in mind. If you were ever wondering when or how to farm glory, doing 1 trophy battles this week with a Falconer on your team is the absolute best way in the entire game to accumulate glory, so keep that in mind. So grind it out this week if you want to start getting a little bit more of a reserve of glory for future event weeks, because you're not going to have to spend that much glory this week, but you're going to be able to gain a very, very large amount. As far as the event objective, it is a really straightforward one. All you have to do is kill any enemy in PvP, including summon. So if they keep summoning in a single battle, you can keep killing them and essentially get infinite in a single battle if you really wanted to. But this synergizes pretty well for once with what the other event is, because this event encourages you basically to do 1 trophy battles, and this also encourages you in a way to do 1 trophy battles, because every single event gem only counts whatever you end up killing. It doesn't matter how hard it is what you're killing. As long as you get a kill in PvP, it will be giving you 1 event gems towards this. So really spamming 1 trophies this week is probably the meta as far as how you're going to be able to farm everything, particularly if you don't have as much time to really bother. But really easy events for both of them, and you're going to gain a lot of resources. So definitely utilize it while you can this week. As far as the bonuses, there isn't really any need to specifically make teams based around the bonuses, though I still did make one that I'll show soon. But there's 10% for all Leonis Empire, and there's also 10% for all Beasts. Of course, now that there's only 10% bonuses, these are relatively trivial for the most part. Anything with 20% bonus, even with 20% bonus, isn't going to be too much better than what they already were with 0% bonus. This is kind of just like a little bit extra every single week without completely breaking the game. Perfectly fine with these being reduced down. I am actually kind of happy that we don't have to deal with 50% troops anymore. But as far as like the whole premise of like building around in a given week, like building around these mechanics, there's no point in specifically building around them. If you can, then you might as well, but there's no direct need to go out of your way to specifically do them. So that's everything for those. Let's go and cover some teams now. Oh, one thing to mention as well, event keys. They are worth using only if you do not have an Emperor Corvash yet. Emperor Corvash is the best stunner in the game by a mile and a half. There is no one who comes even closer. His final trait allows him to stun every single extra turn you do, or whenever you swipe 4 or 5 times matches. And he also has a double stun off his ability, as well as a drain. He's commonly used within the context of Guild Wars on blue and brown days, and used in a couple different various defend teams. Also for console players who also have this, the Emperor Corvash Valkyrie Justice Queen Mab, I believe, is the strongest possible team on console right now. It's a little bit weaker on PC mobile, but I believe it's pretty much the strongest on console right now. So if you don't have the Corvash for that team, definitely go and get that. But yeah, you don't really need more than 1 Emperor Corvash. There isn't currently any team that really runs with multiple Corvashes anymore. So if you already have an Emperor Corvash, you can pretty much just skip using event keys this week, because the only 2 drops are basically Corvash and Amira as the only 2 that are even remotely worth it in the current event key drop pool. So again, another good week to skip. You can basically skip on most of Glory, and you can also skip on basically all the event keys. So a kind of chill week that's kind of optional if you actually want to spend anything. What else? Let's go into PvP and go over the teams. So we're going to have 3 different teams that we're going to go over. Pure Leonis, a kind of just farm the glory like crazy, and a Falcon Skull related team. So let's start with the basic and just clear this out real quick. This is my personal preference for what I use whenever I'm farming the glory in a given week. Ideally, I'd probably do it on a 1 trophy, but we can get away with doing on a 3 trophy as well. But essentially, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be getting a really large amount of glory this week simply by just using a single Falconer on your team. Every single battle will give you an additional 5, which is quite a substantial amount. And all you have to do is use a solid triple team. Doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it can win in a timely fashion that isn't much slower than what you would normally win with. And just simply use that triple team and kill them out that way. Something that basically makes whatever your final troop is irrelevant. Any team that can perpetuate itself that way. So whatever you happen to want to use for that, you can basically just use your core team that you generally use on a regular basis, simply putting this thing in as, you say, alternative. And as you can see, we won that battle in about the same time as we would win any battle, and we end up getting the additional 5 glory for it. Optimally, you would of course spam it on 1 trophies, though you could spam it against whatever if you just wanted to get more trophies or whatever else. But for optimal glory gains, you would just want to go for the people that you see are really low. Like this battle right here, you can see with how low its stats are. We can almost 1-shot them, definitely like 2-shot or almost 2 shots. So going for those easier battles for those 5 glories is a really good idea to do this week, and is the most glory you will ever be able to gain. So use it while you can. If you want to get that glory reserve up, now is the time. Let's go with, which one should we do next? Let's go with, actually, let's not do this against Queen Mab. Actually, this was the team I was just mentioning about, too. I believe this is the strongest team on console right now. Some people still run it on PC mobile, as you can see right now. But it's not as good as I say that, and it's probably going to destroy me. So let me go with this. Amira, as I mentioned, is in the event key drop pool. You also get 3 copies of her for free this week, just from playing a bunch of PvP. She is a hard counter to blue troops. She deals true damage to an enemy, steals 2 magic from it, and deals double if they use blue mana. One thing to note is she still gets the 2 mana, even if she does get the kill. And the whole purpose of her is basically to one-shot blue troops. So that's actually a perfect example right here that we did end up getting lucky enough to face this. So with this team, I'm using a full Leonis Empire. It's all the troops within this team have a 10% bonus this week. And I believe 2 of them have a 20% bonus. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, that bonus is rather irrelevant for the most part, but still, hey, a little bit better than nothing. Also, I lied. That was not 7 mana. It starts with 6 mana, so you would only have to take 1 red, and regardless of that red, you would end up having enough mana to then go on your way. So, ideally right now, I kind of want to get a mirror mana, mainly because we can one-shot like crazy. We have 52 damage. We can one-shot anything on this team aside from Queen Mab. So the optimal thing to do then would be to go kill the Emperor Korvash before he can get his stun off. Of course, this was the troop or the drain off. This was the troop I was mentioning earlier. The main one that you would open event keys for, deals true damage to the first 2 enemies and then stuns and drains their mana. Really, really good. It's also one of the very few drain options that you have on a blue day. I believe brown day has quite a few more options, but generally I use it on both blue and brown day as one of my main drainers. And he has leader, which is decent, armored, which is pretty bad, and the main reason that he tends to get used in the team, other than his actual ability, is of course his ability to stun like crazy off of his final trait, which triggers it whenever he gets an extra turn. So, unfortunately, we don't have a mirror mana. I am probably going to take this blue, mainly 2 reasons. He's getting too high, and the fact that we need our mirror. I tried to take the red, we didn't exactly get it, and perfect timing, we will now be able to just go and poke him out with the mirror kill. Does twice as much damage. As you can see, we still steal the 2 magic, so now we do 28 instead of 26, which is now enough to kill the Queen Mab. So let's go and try to get mana for her. We can use this by using the Falconer. Hunter's Mark isn't really going to come into play that much in this particular battle, so we'll just throw that down. If nothing else, we mainly just use that for the red it created. One thing that we technically could do right now is throw this down for an extra turn to do 38 damage, though in this current situation, it would just be better to go and try to get as much red mana as we can, and purple, to get our mirror up so we can kill the Queen Mab. And once the Queen Mab goes down, we have essentially won the battle. So there we go. We actually got to use the Hunter's Mark right there. You saw because of the trait that it has, that it allows it to do 2 times additional damage to the enemy. It has 4 times total damage. So mine, which has a 29 attack right now, would end up doing a total of 116 damage, assuming they have no mitigation. That is a lot of damage. So yeah, that is quite devastating. Very, very good. Reminds me a lot of a Dire Wolf in a way, this kind of combo. I don't know if this would really be used a lot though, because Dire Wolf basically does what the combination of both of these do together in a way. Because Dire Wolf has the Entangle, the Entrapment, and the Hunter's Mark, which kind of all synergize together in one single troop for only 8 mana. So in a way, it's good and it's not good. You do get the additional benefit of having a summoner and the fact that you actually have gem spawn. Overall, the combo of both of these is okay. It's not really anything that's like way over the top, but it kind of does its job, which, I don't know. It works for what it's used for. It's not anything over the top though. It's not something I would use as like a main kind of team or anything like that, that's for sure. But maybe some situations in Guild Wars, you could find value out of her. Particularly since both Yellow and Green Day do both lack like decent summoners for the most part if you don't have some of the higher rarity troops. So that would come in handy quite a bit for both of those days, and you could definitely try working it into a Guild War team and probably get away with literal murder with the Warhawk just one-shotting things. So that'd be pretty cool if you could end up getting that off. And one final thing is this team. The Anointed One, Ragnagord, Falconer, and Keeper of Souls. You can also replace out Keeper of Souls for a Corrupt Sorceress if you do not have it. And the whole premise of this team is mainly to destroy them with the Hunter's Mark into a one-shot. One other thing that this team gets to utilize is, as I mentioned earlier, whenever an enemy is Hunter's Mark, exploded gems do still do twice as much damage. So as I mentioned, like we explode like 7 gems and they're 100 mark, well that would then do 14 instead of 7. Doesn't make that big of a difference, but it can definitely add up, especially if you get a skull afterwards, because that could be the difference in killing it and not killing it. So we're just going to be running with this, running with a brown purple, just so we can get the Ragnargord up a little bit quicker, and the purple to feed into our Keeper of Souls, because once we get this team going, ideally we'll be able to help keep perpetuating him by just taking a purple occasionally here and there. Ideally that would have been a brown surge. That will set us back a little bit that it wasn't a brown surge, because we could have gotten this team already rolling. What do we do then? So we'll just take a green and just hope we get some reds. Free purples, not really something we need as of this current moment, but I'll take it. It's better than nothing. Free green, which we literally do not need. We'll throw this down and hope we get lucky. Place Hunter's Mark, of course, on first slot. There's almost never a situation where you don't put it on first slot. Pretty much every time you cast that, it will go on first slot. Very, very excessively situationally would it not go on first slot, but generally any Hunter's Mark that you ever use, just throw it on first slot. But it's almost guaranteed the best place to put it. Ragnargord doing extra damage might come into place here, since we're going to need to explode, though I think we would have already gotten enough just from the explosion itself. So let's just throw an explosion. Probably don't even really need to explode here, but we'll go for that. We do get the extra turn off of it, so definitely worth the explosion. And ideally, we can get the loop kind of going right now. We need to figure out if we actually have alignment on the board. We can just go throw that towards the yellow. Want to make sure I keep the green and red both on the board, just to make sure that we can throw this down. So of course, we get an attack buff, which will make it even easier to kill. And right now, we can just throw the Falconer. There's plenty of red on the board due to the fact that Anointed One keeps creating reds. As you saw there, now it's 100 mark, so the next skull we do will end up killing it. So all we really have to do now is swipe for a skull and then follow it up with almost anything, and that will be the match. So we'll swipe for a skull, we'll take a skull. Unfortunately, we don't have a drop right there. That would have almost been the kill. It wouldn't have been though. So we'll just throw this down, double check that Anointed One has a cast. He does not. Let's go get rid of almost the entirety of the board. We get an extra turn somewhere in all that mess. And we can throw an Anointed One. Doesn't give us extra turn, does give us mana. I think I'm just going to go for the explosion, try getting our Keeper of Souls up, or just a random skull. We didn't end up getting the random skull, unfortunately. We'll just move that over. That's not enough damage. Oh, wait, we can just take the free turn. There we go. And Anointed One, still no alignment. We'll give it some more reds, so hopefully give it an alignment. Of course, we're not really utilizing a summon that much because Anointed One is pretty much just going to be able to tank out all of this. But if he was to die, you would be able to replace him out with a troop that, in the case of this particular team, basically does the exact same role as what a Anointed One would for the most part. If we could just get a little bit more damage, that should kill it with now, and we could end it. Let's see. Oh, we'll just throw a standard Ragnargord on it. And what else? What else? What else? Move that up. Actually, why did I do that? We could just keep our souls for the kill, and we're good to go. With only 5 HP left, could just throw in another Ragnargord or whatever else. But there we go. Down it goes. And yeah, that is the new Falconer and the Falcon that it actually summons. Both of which are relatively average troop, but as I mentioned, this is more of a kind of like grind and get your resources up kind of week. There's very few things that you have to pay out as far as expenses this week, as far as getting troops, so that's kind of nice, and it allows you, with the current event, to be able to farm out very well. I cannot emphasize this enough. Definitely go and utilize the bonus glory this week. If you're wondering how I have worked up to that high of a stash, this is one of the ways that I have worked that high. This gives you a lot more glory than you think, and if you ever wanted a lot of glory, this is the time to do it. This is almost like a 2 times glory in a way, with how much quicker you can get it. Definitely utilize it. Use it as much as you can. It will help you out a lot in the long run. And just make sure to save up some of your glory, because all you really need to do this week is buy 1 Falconer, buy 1 of the other thing. Like, if you don't need any of the trait stones, just spend no event keys, buy 1 Falconer, buy 1 of the Warhawk, and then you're pretty much good to go. Then just use your Falconer as a last slot on whatever your triple team is, and just plow through 1 trophies on PvP as quickly as possible. And that will give you a lot of resources this week. Even if you don't have that much time, you would still be able to get the good amount of bonus glory. Plus, you could even finish out the event pretty easily this week. Killing 500 troops in PvP is a pretty easy thing to do. Especially since you could manipulate summoners too. If you find like a really weak person that's running like 4 summoners for some reason, some people will occasionally do that to just kind of help people out. If you find one of those, you could just farm that entire battle up to 500 if you really wanted to, though it probably would be more time efficient, particularly with the +5 glory bonus, just to go for actual battles. Anyways though, that will wrap it up for this video. One last thing to mention though, in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests, both PC and mobile still have their new mythic within the drop pool, and given that you probably got a lot of keys from your guild this morning from just all the tasks that get done every single Monday reset, you may want to invest those and just use them now to try to roll for the mythic. Of course, right now, Oriali is on PC mobile, and on console, you have Queen Aurora. Queen Aurora is only decent if you can actually get it fully traded. Oriali is the complete inverse. She has horrible traits, but she actually has a good ability. So if you're interested in either of those, of course, on the respective platform, you can still try to get her through those respective keys. Anyways, that'll wrap it up for this video. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Best of luck with everything. Goodbye.